Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, your agent of awesome, X7, the host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters. Today, we're going to be talking about the Deadly Flesh Eaters from the movie from 1964. It's really, it's kind of what they call proto gore because it's got it's pretty bloody, but it's in black and white, so it's tampered down. Though I'm sure it was quite shocking. Although 1964, color was very much around by then. So smart of them, the producers. There's one of the really basic ad mats there for you to look at. But we'll just get right into it here. But before too long,
it takes just 10 seconds for the flesh eaters to strip the last bit of flesh from any living thing.
Before we get going, let's please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell so you'll always be notified of new content every day, even if it's later on in the day than usual, like today. And grab yourself a big old bowl of hummus and your favorite delivery system, and we will talk about get into the flesh eaters here. Uh, Basically, it's a Nazi experiment that's been unleashed because it wasn't finished. They were trying to market it or fix it in World War II, and they didn't get it done, but it escaped. And, well, as we'll see, the lowly marine biologist emigrates to the U.S., probably under like Werner von Braun. Nazi schmatzi, says Werner von Braun. But shout out to Tom Lehrer there. And uh, he's trying to sell it, catch them and refine them and sell them to the highest bidder. Long story short, there's a little more going on here, and we'll get into that. But we start out in the water here off of it's the coast of New York, but they're going to forget where she hires him. Well, let's see. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. This girl and this guy who's there holding her top, obviously, she jumps in the water. He jumps in the water. He gets eaten. She gets eaten. That's the end of them. But there's the blood. And then we get into Vulcan Productions presents The Flesh Eaters. Now, there's a band, I think, from the 80s called The Flesh Eaters. But honestly, I don't know too much about them. Which you can, say, that's me. It's, they call it a gore film, but it's really not like, what the 80s gore turned into. I don't know. It doesn't seem that graphic or there's a lot of blood in here and a lot of kind of gruesome effects, but they're covered up, as you'll see. Be that as it may, this was written by Arnold Drake, who co-created the Doom Patrol and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then wrote for the X-Men and did tons of stuff. It was directed by Jack Curtis, who will shortly be remembered as Pop's racer, among many voices. Teacher did the voiceovers, and if you listen, you can hear where they've had to do some ADR, additional dialogue recording, for those of you not in the know. It was produced by Jack Curtis, Terry Curtis, and Arnold Drake. Our main star is Martin Kozlek, and you've seen him as a Nazi, even though he left the country and spoke out against both Nazi Germany and the Nazis. And but he was in tons of things. They don't even have him in. Well, there's television. He was General Mueller in Hogan's Heroes. He was in Love American Style, Banachek, and Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Wild Wild West, Mission Impossible, Batman, Avery Evans' Charm, Outer Limits, Get Smart, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. He did a lot of stuff and he's a good actor. So, he left Germany then in the early 1930s because he spoke out against them, the Nazi power and Herr Schnickelgruber. So, now that we've got that, I think this is supposed to be New York. The film was shot on Montauk, New York here. And I want to, let's see, but it's going to fly from New York to Provincetown, Massachusetts. Okay, so it is up there. And it looks cold on the island they land on because, of course, there's his seaplane. There is our hero and Jan Letterman. So it's not a bird or a plane, it's a word or a plan. It's Letterman or Jan Letterman. So, and our hero there is Byron Sanders, and he plays Grant Murdoch, down on his luck pilot. So, and then they're carting about wealthy, drunk, over the hill actor Laura Winters about. For some reason, they got to get down to Provincetown. There they go. That's priced, but there's a lot of footage in the plane. It looks, it's not bad. They have to land, of course. There's mechanical difficulties. If there weren't mechanical difficulties, half of these movies would be 10 minutes long. This movie was released on March 18th, 1964. It runs 91 minutes and then cut to 86, 87. There's an extended Germany flashback sequence, which you won't get the Wayne's World flashback today, but it could have been there. Just remember that. There's also two versions of the movie, and we'll get to. I mean, they have different cuts, really. There's one on IMDb, one on the. You might hear Agent K down there meowing at me. There's one on Internet Movie Data. Dang, again. On the Internet Archive, actually, it's got the same one up twice, but it's not the one we watched here. So there's Ms. Winters, and they're landed, and then they find our professor, Peter Bartell. That is Martin Kozlak right there. Laura Winters was played by Rita Morley, who did lots of other things. And her name was Rita Imogen Gann, and she changed her name because Rita Gann was too similar to Rita Gam. And let's see, it doesn't really have a lot of the things. So movies, Edge of Night, World Turns, The Secret Storm. Anyway, so our cast is there. Rita stumbles across the skeleton of one of our two unfortunate couples, the two that got eaten early in the movie. Then she's trying to put the moves on Grant. She's a good actress too. They're all good here. Grant himself is probably the most mundane. He overacts a bit. There you see Bartell with the glowing fish skeletons. Hi, you can't stay here. The cats will interrupt what the cats will interrupt. And then there's the regular ones. Now, he talks about in the movie that a bunch of dead fish floated up. And if you'll remember in the giant behemoth, which I don't know if we've done a video for, but we should. At the end of that movie, they're going off toward the Salton Sea. So they could have tied in a whole bunch of things overall here. And but so there's more to Professor Bartell than meets the eye, obviously. Now, Jack Curtis, who wrote the movie, also storyboarded it. So you get shots like this, which I just really, as an older fan or with older eyes, looking at how well things are set up, the foreground and the background. So they just shot it right off of his storyboards, which was a good idea because it looks dramatic, almost very comic book like. And just things like this, they're not quite on center. So the man knew what he was doing. Oh, Rita's gone out to get her, not Rita, but Ms. Winters has gone to get her booze box, but it's in a sea of flesh eaters, and she has to get rescued. And there's our first shot of what they can do to the person. They'll eat through your clothes to get to your legs, to flesh, because that's what they were designed to do, is eat flesh. And see this? They use a knife to cut him out. Dr. Bartell uses a knife to cut him out of Grant's leg. Gross. There's a lot of skin in this movie, both male and female, so they knew their audience. And he's gallant and then takes off his shirt. Now, they couldn't have been warm. I don't know. The movie took a year to finish because there was an actual hurricane that blew down all their sets. They had to get new funds. And there's our hippie Omar, or more a beatnik, really. And he's played by Ray Tudor, who has no clickable link in here. But he does a good job. I mean, he sounds like a beatnik because love is the power, Daddy. And they're trying to warn him to get out of there, and the flesh eaters are getting on him, and then they eat his shoes. But he gets up, and they show him the skeleton again, so he knows that there's something deadly in the water. But and he meets a rather gruesome end. Now, our young couple here is in love. Maybe she gets him on the straight and narrow. Hopefully, well, and there is a flesh eater that he's finally figured out to put in a glass container so it can't eat through. He's collecting specimens. What could he be doing that for? This lowly marine biologist. And this poor schlub has decided he's got to go take a supply run out to the island there. I guess to the professor, because it's, they've had the hurricane, so everyone's kind of waiting around. This man is smarter. He tells him not to go. And now they found a giant solar battery in 1964 that gives them 10,000 watts of power. And he kind of tells them about it. And there you go. He's zapped the microbes, the flesh eaters, to see if what will happen to them, and thinking that it'll kill them so they can control them and get off the island. Oh, did I mention that? Well, it's they blame Miss Winters, for the plane getting washed out to sea, and they can't leave. But we're never sure. She probably did do it. And look at this old-fashioned reel-to-reel tape recorder. It's a transistor. And there's our supply guy, but they're telling him to go back. He turns a little too sharp on his boat, and the flesh eaters get him and dissolve him. So if this were a color movie, that would be bloody and gross and probably not look nearly as realistic or gory as it would, because they'd have overdone it. Which is why I laughed all the way through Friday the 13th Part 3 and almost got kicked out, because it was ridiculous. So the flesh eaters here are just created by scratching film. That's all it is. And you just scratch it so the light shines through it, and you've got it. I did that. Well, I did it on film. They probably did it on the negatives. I did it on a film. You can see it. It's called The Space Cowboy on my YouTube channel. And guess who gets to drink the flesh eaters? It's poor Omar. Glug, 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 glug. And, well, you can just imagine, because I didn't get the shot of his guts spilling out all over the place. I'm not unhappy about that. However, he's out on the raft. They sent him out on the raft, and it's a nice little shot there of him superimposed so you can see that they ate right through him and killed him. And he's blonde now. And remember those flesh eaters he zapped? They're growing bigger. Dun, dun, dun. Rita, I keep calling her by her real name, Laura Winters, decides she's going to pair up with the sadistic. Now we find out that Professor Bartell is kind of a sadist, and he's a Nazi, so he's a jerk. She's going to pair up with him to get off the island, and he just stabs her dead. Then he buries her. And now he's pulled out his German Luger, just in case we didn't know he was, a Nazi. He says he's a patriot, but he's not a super patriot, because when he's going to sell the flesh eaters to the highest bidder, I mean, the minute that got out, everyone would kill him and just take it. No one's going to pay him any money. That'd be ridiculous. And this is the flashback to the Nazi scene, which went on. It didn't even need to be in there. I mean, all he had to do was say, I was the poor lowly scientist that they abused, and now I want to get my revenge on the world or whatever. So the movie could have been about 10 minutes shorter, and it would have moved a bit faster. Because once you get to this end here, the exciting ending, it's good. I mean, it's really well done. I think that is the same toy Luger that I still own from my collection. Cap gun. And Jan Letterman sees that the flesh eater's escaped. It's eaten his poor bird. And she screams, and there it is. The flesh eater in the flesh, so to speak. You don't really get a clear shot of it because they've got the light shining, and it's blurry, which is smart because it's like it's ever moving and grossly. There's a nice forced perspective shot. Once again, I'm sure that's from Arnold Drake, his storyboards. There it is, but Being a Nazi, he thinks he can everything's able. You just shoot it and it'll go away, and that didn't work. However, lovely shot here too. Miss Winter comes out of her grave and rolls down them and tries to kill Bartell, but he pushes her down the hill. She rolls down and stabs the thing right in its nucleus slash eyeball. Again, the chocolate syrup there would have just been gross blood. And yeah, it could be really, it could have been a lot, in color it would have been very bloody. Then it blows up because they realize that the thing can't handle hemoglobin. How does it eat flesh when hemoglobin is traveling through us? If you think about it too much, it won't make any sense, right? But he gets the gun back. He reloads it. Now he's going to make him. He's going to make throw. Well, first we're going to throw the. They thought the electricity would make it inert, and they could lie down in the water, and he'd be fine. But then they realize that it's made a giant one, and there's a bigger one growing in the water. So he's got his gun reloaded. There's a big fight because he hits him in the head with this giant hypodermic and does the monkey flip, and Bartell goes into the water and gets eaten away by the flesh eaters. And you can kind of see, if I am bigging this enough, where there's just, they're using makeup, but they've got it, rotoscoped, and there he finally shoots himself at the very end, so he won't have to feel them eating him. That's kind of gross, yeah. So then there's the giant flesh eater. So suddenly we have a giant monster movie. Woo-hoo! So I don't know. I think that's where it'll probably go in science fiction. But and our hero, Grant there, he's decided that Mr. Murdoch is about to, he's going to take care of it. He's got that hypodermic full of blood. He's going to take care of it. There's a shot of the creature, how it sees people, I guess. And it's got a nice giant stinger. So it's got two pinchers and a stinger, but it's a blob thing. It's reminiscent of Angry Red Planet. Oh, man, I have not played any of this. I'm just jibber jabber. No, not that. Wrong button. There's a lot of screaming in the trailer.
Listen to those screams. They're eating him alive.
Yeah, this would have been better to play a little more of. So there's the eyeball.
These things want flesh, any kind of flesh. And once it's scented, they'll eat their way through anything that comes between them and their meat.
They stood alone, surrounded by the most abominable threat ever faced by human beings.
That's for sure. So here's where the version that's released that you can buy easily was the second version of the movie. It has some extras in it and some nifty stuff. The first one they tried to release, Dark Sky released the second one. The first one had a commentary track, and it also had the full color ending, as when Murdoch shoots the hypodermic in there, it goes to red. So it's not much. And then the blood squirts in, he jumps off, and it hollers a lot.
Don't touch those things! I need bandages. It took the blood. Anything.
And then it explodes. It blows up just as well. So everyone's happy. The end. Right? They walk off. Now they're hoping another supply boat will come out. How are they going to explain all this? These dead bodies everywhere, skeletons of dead bodies. They're going to get put away, aren't they?
One by one, half mad with terror, they turned upon each other.
You die first, Buster! You die first!
So probably won't get to the whole one here because we're about done. It's just Jack, these are the credits. And we are done. So that is our scary horror, gore, giant monster movie, science fiction, all wrapped into one here. And fortunately, the Nazi gets eaten, and some good people have to die, even accidentally. But that's how things go. All right, my fellow agents, I hope you've enjoyed this. And until our next assignment, this is X7 signing off.
It's takes just 10 seconds for the flesh eaters to strip the last bit of flesh from any living thing.
Listen to those screams. They're eating him alive.
These things want flesh, any kind of flesh. And once they sense it, they lead their way to anything that comes between them and their meat.
They stood alone, surrounded by the most abominable threat ever faced by human beings.
Don't touch those things! I need bandages, strips of cloth, anything! Quickly!
One by one, half mad with terror, they turned upon each other.
You'll die first, Buster! You'll die first!
You killed her!
Animal!
You will lie down in one of the contaminated areas and be our guinea pig.
What was the dread secret of this horror that was born out of science and madness? Was there no way to escape?